Beyond the Pelvis is hosted by Dr. Kenael a pelvic floor PT and intuitive healer, and Laura Haraka, a somatic practitioner and breathwork facilitator. Each week, we explore alternative and holistic approaches to healing chronic pelvic pain and other painful or chronic conditions. Join us and other experts in mind, body, and spiritual healing as we discuss a wealth of modalities ranging from ancient practices to modern therapies that challenge the conventional Western model of treatment. Let's get right to it.
Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Pelvis. And today I would like to welcome Jeannie Kulwin to the podcast. Jeannie taught 18 years as a high school teacher in LA's public school system and suffered with debilitating chronic pain and illness for nearly 16 years. Jeannie overcame her years of chronic pain and is now a stress, chronic pain, and breathwork coach and is certified in pain reprocessing therapy. She is also a meditation facilitator, sound healer, Reiki practitioner, and a functional nutritional guide. Oh my goodness, Jeannie, you do a lot. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks. So great to be here with you ladies. And I know, Laura, we've connected with breathwork a while ago too. So it's so great to be here. And thank you. Yeah, I've done a lot. And then I found little areas where I shine, the things that really resonate with me. I'm also a yoga teacher. I think I took that out because I don't want people to come to me and say, oh, let's do yoga. I don't really teach it anymore. So yeah.
Yes, that's so funny. When Laura introduced me to you and I was looking at your website, I was like, oh, she's kind of like me. Like she does all the things. And then I was going to say, I think I mentioned it, Laura. I was like, maybe she's a manifesting generator or a generator if you know your human design.
Yeah, I'm a generator. Yeah.
Yep, there it is.
Oh, amazing.
Right, because you do all the things. So it's really exciting that you do, and we can sort of talk to you about all the different things. So can you share a little bit about who you are and what got you here? I understand you had your own history of chronic pelvic pain or chronic pain, not just pain. So why don't you go ahead and share? Tell us about that and then how that became what you are today.
Yeah, so I was a high school teacher for many, many years. That was my first job right out of college and the thing that I did forever. And so kind of doing that at the beginning was great. I was in my purpose and my flow, and towards the end of my career, just out of alignment, out of my purpose. And I always knew I was going to be a coach, but never dreamed I'd be doing chronic pain coaching or even really health coaching. Because I hadn't gotten on the other side of it, right? When you're struggling, like, who am I to help other people with their health? So yeah, in terms of my chronic pain journey, it was a long time, 16 years. And really one of those things where you look back and you realize stuff that you didn't see as chronic pain, that was all TMS, mind body, even before I realized it was a thing, right? When I was in my early 20s, stress fractures, shin splints, and I'm active-ish, right? Going to the gym a few times a week, but I wasn't a hardcore athlete. And so going to physical therapy starting, 18 years old, 19, 20, like this doesn't seem kind of, I don't want to say normal, but it didn't seem like for what I was doing with my activities and my levels. And then, I was I was age 26 when really things came to a head. I got really debilitating ankle pain, and that really affected me. I had just bought a condo and I had broken up with, relationship, but I'm kind of like the queen of minimizing things, which is why I'm so passionate about the stress now. It's like, well, we were only dating 6 months. It wasn't that serious. And yeah, buying a condo was a lot, but I wasn't stressed. I mean, I've said that so many times in my career, like, I'm not that stressed. It's not that big a deal. So age 26 and went down the whole gamut of trying to figure out what is going on with this ankle pain. And, looking back, it's like clearly mind body, but at the time it is beyond frustrating. And I live in LA, which is great. We have lots of doctors and pain doctors and UCLA and USC, like Cedars-Sinai, like the best of the best. And so then I just started this whole cycle of seeing all these different doctors and, neurologists, rheumatologists. Like I made a list I showed you guys. I mean, I have seen so many, the podiatrist and the foot and ankle, and like I said, being back in physical therapy. But the interesting is on my journey too, right? It's not that I saw one chiropractor. I've probably seen 5 and, 5 different acupuncturists over a lifetime of all of this stuff. So yeah, I remember in the very beginning, I was doing hypnotherapy to try to figure out what's going on with the ankles. I had a nerve entrapment surgery from the ankle pain and nothing helped. And for me, it was kind of flare and flare out. So I'd have maybe a few months of debilitating pain and then somehow it would lessen. At the time it didn't make sense, but now of course it makes sense, right? For pain to come and go and wean and different levels of it. But it was debilitating. So that was from 26 to age 30. That never went away, but I would have cycles of it where I'd be in a flare. But what's characterizing all of this is the fear, because I had no idea what caused it. I had no idea what was wrong with me. And nothing came up on like anything, right? But then it was like, you need to strengthen your ankles and all these kind of things. So that was kind of what started me on this journey at age 26. And then at age 30 is when I started having really debilitating back pain. And that kind of was everywhere. It was sometimes upper, sometimes lower. It started lower and it started from swimming. And we can kind of all relate probably to like the thing that you think caused, right? Like I used to swim and loved it. And yeah, the swimming and felt it in my lower back. And yeah, and then the back pain got so bad that now I was having insomnia, which I had never had because I couldn't sleep because of the pain. Yeah, and so I was still dealing with the ankle pain at this time too. It was just kind of like an extra thing. And I remember like the back with like spasm and kind of the same thing too, where I'd have periods where it was okay, not too bad, but then the pain levels would get really high. Again, there's so much fear because nothing's coming back on MRIs, on x-rays, nothing's showing up, right? But then of course, maybe it's like, I'm not that like big, I'm a small frame, right? Oh, you have to get strong. You're not strong. Oh my gosh, the whole BS about, not being strong enough. Yeah. So then that was kind of like my first coming into this world of now I've got anxiety, now I've got insomnia, now I've got back pain, ankle pain. I was having digestive issues, like really bad too, where I'm seeing doctors and had a scope put down with like my tummy. Like my tummy was just really upset and I was having a lot of tummy pain. So seeing quite a bit of different doctors, I even like couldn't even, I started making this list of all the people that I've seen. It's like, oh yeah, it was like this whole 2-3 years of seeing sleep doctors, right? And trying to get a handle on what's going on with my sleep and having pain, worry me so I can't sleep, and like the physical pain of not being able to sleep. So yeah, that was a not fun time. I definitely had some depression and, emotions. That's something that I struggled with a lot. And so when my family, like, it was hard to come out and say, like I'm really, really suffering and it was like debilitating and no one gets it, right? I didn't meet, and later I'll share that I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but I hadn't met anyone in this like chronic pain space. Or like, I think I cried the first time someone I met in person said that she had fibromyalgia. Like I just felt so isolated. Like there was like no one that even resembled anything. I mean, I guess maybe like autoimmune or seeing other people that were going with chronic pain, but mine certainly didn't make any sense. Yeah. And so kind of just going throughout my 30s of just managing and these cycles where I would have a few months like pain free. Oh my goodness. But there was so much fear, right? Because I don't know what's going on. And as a teacher, I remember, entire summers just being wiped out and exhausted and in pain. And it's like you work so like, especially when I'm not loving my job, I work so hard to get to the summer. And then fuck, man, it's like the whole summer is dealing with the pain and doctors and treatments and like spending so much time and money. I mean, we could all cry with how much money and time we've spent, right, doing the wrong thing. So it definitely was just this like cycle. And then I wrote down, I like saw, I don't even know, I was having like sinus issues. That was kind of at the end of my journey. But yeah, just like really doing a lot. And I mean, I saw the Western doctors and did it's not like I saw like one podiatrist. I saw like 5 and different rheumatologists, and you get the MRI. I'm sure you know this, Laura, right? Like you get the MRI and then you see a doctor 2 years later, like, well, that MRI is old. We got to get another one. So we got to like start this process over. But I did a lot of woo stuff too, right? I mean, I did the Reiki and the healers are going to heal me. And I did, I was like writing my list and oh my God, I did Ayurveda. That was like a 6 to 9 month process that, for me didn't help. And the integrative doctor, the functional medicine doctor, the pain doctors, the ear, nose, and throat doctor, like all the things, like such a long list, and many of them, right? It's not just I saw one ear, nose, and throat doctor. I saw like 3 and different things coming up. So yeah, so kind of at the end of my journey is when, so I'd say like my journey is 16 years. The end of my journey is when I got the fibromyalgia diagnosis. Yeah, which helped, but then it didn't, right? Yeah, so it helped in terms of feeling validated. And I remember I had a family's wedding, like my cousin was getting married, and I didn't go to the wedding. That was huge because the thought of walking in the airport with my ankle pain, I just couldn't even like imagine, right? Like walking in the airport and checking in when I had so much ankle pain. So I felt a lot of shame of not being able to do things, not having a diagnosis. So then if I'm not going to this wedding, I would never not go for any other reason, but like, what the F is wrong with me, right? Like, and nobody knows. And so then am I making this up? Or so the fibromyalgia diagnosis from like 3 top doctors in LA was helpful at the time, like I said, because it kind of validated finally that I wasn't like making this up. But then it's pretty doom and gloom in terms of symptoms and what you can do to get better. And there's a lot of Facebook groups that are talking about, it's not a positive thing to get either. Yeah, I remember a doctor telling me I was complaining that I wasn't sleeping and I was having insomnia, and he was so flippant about, well, you have fibromyalgia, like that's one of the symptoms. Pretty much get used to it. Yeah, which is heartbreaking, right? And then because of this fear and not knowing what was wrong with me, I did stay in a career. I talk about that, quite a bit of that wasn't in alignment, but it makes sense how you're going to stay in something when I'm not married. So it's me, it's my, supporting myself. It's like I have health insurance as a teacher and I have all the security and the safety, and to leave that seemed impossible. Yeah. And so the end of my career, like my journey, on the fibromyalgia path. And then finally, I hear a podcast with Steve Ozanich. And I have had, this is funny, like I've had dreams about Steve, right? Like I've met him in person, and I think he connected with me on LinkedIn. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I mean, that man changed my life. Like, absolutely. He was on a podcast for business. He was on a business podcast, just invited because the host turned out to be my mentor, got a lot of relief from back pain. So he had him on, it's a business podcast, but he got relief and his life changed. And so he had Steve on, and he wrote The Green Pain Deception, if you've never heard of Steve Ozanich. And this was before Alan Gordon's book had come out, which I think is an easier read for people. So if you're new, Steve Ozanich is like a pretty thick book, and it's pretty deep. But I remember crying with that book. I had it on a plane and I was crying. I just felt, for the first time, it made sense. Like everything made sense. I had the personality traits, not feeling my emotions, all these mystery, like how do you have ankle pain on both ankles that changes and varies, and I never had an injury, like nothing made sense until it all made sense, right? And the back, I mean, swimming a few times a week or once a week, I don't think I was like overdoing it too much. So yeah, my whole life changed with finding mind body 16 years in. That's kind of the trajectory, and I can share how things changed. Yeah.
Wow. You have went through quite a lot, a 16-year journey, and it's exhausting going down the rabbit hole of doctors and bills and not knowing what's wrong with you.
Yeah. And like I said, like writing this list of, I saw such woo people too, like the wooest. And it brings hope, but then it's this constant cycle of having optimism and hope, and then not working. Like I remember I had a Chinese like healer come to my house, and he was, not even touching me, just putting like his hand on my back to try to like heal me. And there was such like this desperation, right? I mean, I did like past life regressions and, different kind of alternative things. I've talked to like medical mediums. I don't know if you've heard of like Anthony William, but I actually spoke to him, which I've talked publicly about. Not a fan. There was just so much fear. Like he had me change my diet, and it was not helpful for me. But at the time, I was desperate, right? And he's this guru kind of guy. At the end I'm doing IV therapy, and IV therapy, you're in the, you're getting IV treatments of like vitamins and minerals, and they put magnesium in there. So I'm walking out of there exhausted. It's like $180 each time you go, and I'm not getting any relief. Well, you just have to keep, we don't know until you try 8 of them, right? I mean, come on. It's like I'm doing something, it's not helping, but I'm sure you ladies can relate. Well, you have to do it longer. You can't just do 2 IV treatments. So, yeah. And I think, I don't know how I had that kind of like resilience to kind of keep going, but there was no other choice. Right. And so I think when I found Mind Body, I did heal quickly and kind of like a book cure in that way, but I was ready. I mean, I had worked with so many coaches over the years, and I had been working with a mind body coach. She wasn't familiar with chronic pain, so there was a little bit of overlap. Like, at the end too, I didn't mention I had chronic fatigue, and I was on, there's another part. The end of my story had like complete burnout and chronic fatigue, and I was on medical leave. I was on medical leave 3 times, but also summers were just, spent on healing and trying to get a grasp on what things are going. But the end of my journey, where I was like, I know I'm going to be leaving teaching. I'm going to use my sick time, right, so to speak. I've got chronic fatigue. I've got adrenal burnout, Epstein-Barr. And so kind of with my mind body, that's where I kind of got, it's where I got that awareness of emotions and the mind body connection. Although the advice, because she wasn't specially informed about chronic pain and chronic conditions through the mind body, it's like I had chronic fatigue and she's telling me to rest, right? We need to rest. You need to listen to yourself. So part of that, I had to untangle and like unlearn kind of some of these things. But so when I read Steve's book, and I definitely was healed quickly. I did have some work to do though. I worked with a coach. I was having sinus infections, and I knew it was TMS, but I didn't know. And so, yeah, but and when I actually read Steve's book, I remember I wasn't in a flare on with my ankles. So it was like a lot of stuff. Fortunately, I think I was in a flare with the sinus conditions. I was having tummy stuff. So yeah, reading something when you're ready. And for me, it all resonated and it finally made sense. Really, really helped me. So yeah. And then like starting with him, and then working with a chronic pain coach, and then learning and taking it all in. That's kind of the trajectory.
It's so true. You have to be ready. And we've
Mm-hmm.
talked about this on the podcast before. Sometimes it takes a while for people to be open to it. And you mentioned something before, there's such a feeling of being alone.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And I remember going down the rabbit hole of medical doctors, and I did all the woo-woo, all the things you did, I did too. And it's very difficult, but it's almost feels like a relief when you read that book or you heard that
Oh my
podcast by
gosh.
Steve Ozanich.
No, and it was kind of cool too, because yeah, he's sharing his story, and however you want to call it, with fate or however happens. My mind body coach sent me a podcast. My mentor is James Wedmore. So she sent me a podcast with James Wedmore. And I remember, okay, I like him, but she was wanting me to pay attention to like the woman, but I was like, I like him. And then because I liked him, my list went to his podcast. So kind of like a natural progression of synchronicity of how things are supposed to be. But yeah, I mean, the whole gamut of alternative healers, but then also very Western and doing all the things. And like we said, repeatedly doing all the things. Like I have to get another MRI, have to get, and I did like nerve, I don't even know what they're called, where they like test your nerves. It was such a painful procedure where they're like testing you. So they're like shocking your ankles. And yeah, I don't even know what that's called, Laura. Yeah, and then just when we go to doctors, they don't have a lot of time for us. And so we're kind of in this desperate state of like, well, now what do I do? And you can't help me. And I don't know what to do. I remember my dad would come with me to appointments sometimes just for moral support, right? Because it's, as you know, you're waiting for an appointment for months. You're excited. You have some hope. You go, you leave. There's nothing. You feel even more discouraged. It was a lot. But I think once I was definitely ready, and I had been doing a lot of coaching. I worked with some therapists during that time. For me, it wasn't so helpful, but with the coaching, that was really helpful to kind of work on how I was thinking about things and my approach. And so towards the end of my journey too, I mean, I knew it for a long time that I wanted to be a coach, but like I said, I wasn't on the other side at all with any of this health stuff. So then when I kind of saw the way out, right, as Helen Gordon sees, like I saw the way out. Yeah, when I started coaching, I was doing more health coaching actually. And then just, kind of progressed and developed into chronic pain as I was sharing my story more and having more confidence and like learning about it. Yeah, my first client came to me from England with chronic pain and just heard me talk about my story. Like I wasn't even advertising that I help people with chronic pain. And she came to me and resonated. I was like, okay, I mean, I feel like the best work we can do is on ourselves, right? Like the PhD and mind body healing of ourselves. That's the first step. So yeah. And then it shifted into, as helping people as a health coach. Sometimes I'm helping people like lose weight or they want to improve like their diabetes or their numbers. And I'm realizing if I'm helping people with food, it's not about like the calories, obviously, or the carbs, or when it's a lot of people with the food, and especially people that were coming to me, the underlying with stress, like eating when they're stressed or eating maybe because they're feeling bored or there's like emotions. And so really had this aha with, oh, I'm a stress coach. Like I'm helping people with their finances. Money is super stressful, as we know, relationships. So kind of bringing those together has been really amazing. And I help people too, who are not suffering, chronic pain. I think we all are in the mind body bucket of some point, right? With like anxiety, or we've all experienced mind body, of course, but I do help people. Like I have a client, she's going through a divorce, or a new client, he's struggling with like money and his career and purpose. So kind of blending all that together is kind of my secret sauce.
Just to go back to your story for a second, it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like you did all the things, right? You did all the
Mm-hmm.
medical stuff and you did all the woo stuff. Now, this leads me to question, like, what was it? I know you read the book, you listened to the podcast, but what do you think it was specifically? Because it's not that the things you did don't work. You weren't open and receptive to them. So why were you open and receptive to the podcast and the book? Like, what was it about the podcast and the book?
Yeah. And there really, but I wasn't getting any relief from like the things that I was doing when I was like the chiropractor. I get a little relief sometimes with like the back pain, but then it came back, right? And I just was kind of like, nothing's kind of like sticking. I'm not getting, like if I had a nerve entrapment on my ankles, the surgeon's like literally like cutting my leg open and taking out, I don't know, nerve entrapment stuff and like sewing me back up. I still have the scar there, but nothing changed, right? It's like doing all the things. So I think it made sense to me that it couldn't be structural because, when I look at my injuries and the things I was dealing with, all this back pain, because I swam, didn't really make sense to me. And especially the ankle pain, no injuries, nothing happened. And I think I was ready for it because it just made sense. I mean, I really resonated, like I said, with the personality types. And I didn't get relief with the other things. Or if I did, it was like so temporary. And I think like I just struggled for so long that, it's just, for me, it just made a lot of sense with, kind of this psychosomatic stuff and the mind body. And I knew I kind of thought I did like know how to feel some of my emotions, but then for me too, some of the disbelief about it was, I had a very good childhood and I didn't, some people have had to overcome a lot more. And so kind of suspending that disbelief. And like I said, I never felt, when I was a full-time teacher, I don't have kids. So part of me was like, I can't be that stressed as a teacher. It's not that stressful. I don't have kids. Or kind of minimizing, like when I said before, when I first got my ankle pain. I ended a relationship, but it was only 6 months. I was very good at minimizing my stress and not believing it. And so when he talked about, all these different things, and he goes through, have you read his book at all? He like has like a million symptoms that he's overcome that are strange and bizarre and like mysterious. And I think I just saw like the mystery of like so much of what I was going through. Like he gives like so many examples of things that he's overcome, and then he overcomes it and then another symptom comes, and I could relate to like symptom after symptom. And I don't know, like the way he wrote, but also bringing like so much hope and optimism that you can heal. And I think that's what I really needed to hear too, is that I could heal and nothing's wrong with me, which, wow, that was was huge. But yeah, I mean, it's a very convincing book, I think, like I said, because it is so packed and it's pretty dense. There's a lot in there. And the other thing too that I think is really great about him is he repeated a lot throughout the book. Like he would repeat why we get mind body. And I think that's really like, Laura, I know you get right. Like we have to, like when we're used to this approach and then you hear a different approach that goes kind of, it's different than what I had learned, right? And he's, chronic pain and chronic fatigue. He's saying, go be active and go live your life. And everyone's telling me to rest. It's mind blowing, but like I had done it. I had rested. Like much longer can I rest for? So I knew it wasn't working. And, like taking off of work to rest, it's like, how much more medical leave can I take? So yeah, I think like for me, it just made sense. He gave so many examples. He did a lot of repetition, which is great for someone who's new with this. So for me, I was able to kind of accept it. Yeah.
For me, it just didn't make sense. I
Mm-hmm.
would go
Yeah.
to a pelvic floor therapist and they tell me I had weak pelvic floor muscles. Okay, well, why did I have weak pelvic floor muscles? I had no idea. I was in really great shape. So when I went to a different doctor, there was something else that they would say, and it wasn't even bothering me at the time. So things weren't adding up. And I stumbled across Unlearn Your Pain from Dr. Schubner.
Mm-hmm.
And I started reading the book and I saw myself on the pages. I literally remember sitting there, oh my God, this is me.
Yeah.
This is
I can
me.
so relate to that. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with me. And then I realized, oh my God, there's hope.
Yeah.
There's a way out of this.
Yeah.
So it was for me just having seen myself on these pages over and over. I was amazed that this was the first thing that actually really clicked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's how I felt too. Yeah, and I think even just the struggles with my sleep, right? I mean, now if someone comes to me or anything with sleep, like stress is obviously, we got to look if there's some mind body stuff. And just looking back at seeing these top sleep doctors, it was like barely mentioned. We're looking at like sleep disturbances and I don't know, sleeping disorders and sleep apnea. And it was like barely any, and I didn't realize at that time, but now it just doesn't make any sense how you cannot think. I mean, there was so much fear with sleeping and right. And so if everything comes back medically, okay, you don't have sleep apnea or you don't have any medical problem with sleep, like there's no, he was just like, well, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong. Like, how can you not think that maybe stress or fear or some mind body? Yeah, it's mind blowing. Yeah, and I think, I don't know, maybe being a woman, I think we know that there's like a lot of chronic pain, a lot of chronic illness with women, and we can kind of feel dismissed sometimes. And I mean, I would really go into doctor's office and kind of feel like I had to like stand up for myself, right? And really kind of like fight for my care, right? I felt like I'd seen so many doctors who would give me and I get it, like I understand they have so many patients to see, they can't spend a lot of time, but to our point, we can really identify with honestly waiting months and really thinking that this doctor can help us or point us in the right direction, and it's just kind of like doom and gloom and there's nothing I can help you. It's like it's devastating. Yeah, and so I agree with you, Laura, it finally made sense because nothing made sense before, and like they didn't find anything with anything. Like really, I mean, I guess I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but honestly, even the fibromyalgia I didn't have the clear cut fibromyalgia because fibromyalgia tends to be like all over muscle pain or body pain. And I didn't even have the typical like fibromyalgia. I had more localized pain. And so it makes perfect sense in the TMS mind body sphere of just, yeah, both sides of her ankle, the ankle pain moved, it would change. And like what was happening, it would be like really, really hot and like burning, and then there would be like stabbing. So it makes perfect sense in mind body, but even my fibromyalgia diagnosis didn't make sense. It's like, well, you don't have a normal case. So even like the things I was diagnosed with still weren't normal. And yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so you read the book, you
Mm-hmm.
worked with a coach, but what
Mm-hmm.
was it that you did where you found relief? Like, what was it that did it for you?
Yeah, so I think when I had like at the end of my journey, I just did the yoga teacher training. Actually, it was really intense and there was a lot of stuff kind of going on. And so I kind of knew, but I need someone to help me, like the emotions, right? And I think there are people who definitely heal, just like my mentor who I was telling you with Steve Ozanich. He read Steve's book. He never did any coaching around it. Like he never, there are a lot of people, but I think it's more far and few between nowadays is what I'm hearing too. And I think for me, like the psychoeducation piece was like huge. And that really just brought my fear down like so much. So like my fear was like up here, I'm putting my hands up high. And then like reading about all that like brought it down. So I think like the last piece for me was really understanding emotions in the body and connecting with them. I found breath work, Laura. I know you're the breath work girl too. I found breath work when this was kind of like coming up with the mind body. And then the breath work was like a huge tool for me and a huge release when I got angry. Like I was raised like, oh, well, if you're angry or you're sad, like have a glass of wine, right? And that's like how you deal with emotions. And that's, I didn't drink a lot and it seemed like the bad idea. My dad has like a, one beer a night, right? There's no like excess there, but I didn't know how to hold space for emotions, feel them or anything. So synchronicity is amazing, right? So breath work came into my life at this time and that really strengthened my mind body connection too. So like in terms of like what I did do quite a bit of breath work, and that really supported me in my journey with like leaving teaching too, because I'd always be in this fear about it. And then with breath work, it's like we can kind of eradicate the ego temporarily and get into our heart and intuition. I'd always finish breath work. All right, baby girl, like you can do this. Like you can leave your job. Like you were meant to be a coach. And like before breath work, my ego is like, no one's going to hire you. It's going to be impossible. So I think in terms of like what I did, well, I think what I didn't do too, Kenael, is like a really good question. What did I not do? Like I didn't take these like goddamn supplements anymore. I mean, I've talked to people, are you in this camp, Laura? Like when we travel, like Eddie Lidenstein, like him and I have talked, like going on trips and like half the suitcase is our supplements and our bands and our this and that. So like, what did I not do? I got myself and ate like a normal person, right? I wasn't like, no dairy, no gluten, no this, no that. So I didn't do like the appointments anymore. And I stopped with, wasting some time and money on, like, I remember at the end of my journey, I was seeing like a functional medicine doctor and so expensive. And like the protocol on that. I mean, the first appointment just to go see her, like $850 for like one appointment. And then she was wanting me to do this whole like medical treatment where I'd be seeing her regularly and like all the protocols. So I think too, like, what did I not do? I didn't do any of that stuff anymore. And I stopped the IV therapy. And yeah, so I think breathwork was a great tool. I was working with a coach and I just followed my passion with that was kind of like the inner work, right? Of having the doubt and the fear about my ability to be a coach and kind of like next steps. So they were going to happen, but they kind of happened simultaneously at the same time where as a teacher, you can, I guess, technically leave anytime. You could quit. I mean, no one can force you from not quitting. But because I am the person that like I'm a goodist and perfectionist, right? Like, and I care. Like I wanted to only leave in the summer. So I did feel kind of this pressure. I could see like summer's coming and, I got coaching specifically on being able to leave my job and like the business coaching and like, what did I want for myself? And if I don't leave kind of summertime in that time frame, we're going to spend a whole nother year in this. So yeah, it's kind of like what I didn't do. And then I think for me, the purpose part was key. I know I talked to Andrew was on your podcast just last week, which is awesome, with pelvic pain. And I love how he said, and it was so true. Like he came to me with so much knowledge, like he knows a lot, right? So it's like, we don't have to start here with the psychoeducation. We can just like go into like, what's the next step? And I remember telling him and like myself too, like purpose is the best antidepressant. It is. And so that really kind of did fuel me too. Like, what did I do? I got clear on my vision and my purpose, and that kind of excitement and purpose that really helped me too, because when I was still dealing with some aftermath of stuff or the sinus infections that were not infections, I was just having sinus pain and it was TMS, that kind of moved me forward, is getting clear on my vision and the purpose part. Yeah, that was really key.
I wanted to talk to you about that, so I'm glad you brought it up. I
Yeah.
believe that purpose is just so important to
Yeah.
healing, because when we find our purpose, it actually lights us up inside. And
Yeah.
when we have pain, I believe it is sometimes teaching us that we're not in our purpose.
Oh,
And
definitely. Yeah.
I don't talk about this that much, But when I first got better, I just was trying to decide, do I want to coach people? Do I want to help people? And I went back into education for a while because I was a high school teacher for 10 years.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Uh-huh.
And my body went into complete panic. So my pelvic pain didn't come back, but I started having major panic attacks
Mm,
because I knew that I wasn't living in my purpose. And then when I started doing this work, my panic attacks went away. So
yeah.
purpose is such an important thing, and pain can sometimes guide us to find our purpose.
Yeah, I would never say this to someone who was really suffering and in the throes of it in the beginning about like,
Absolutely.
this could be a gift but when people are starting it on the other side or they are getting better, then they can see it too, that there was a gift in this, or there was a lesson, or there was something for them. But I think it's interesting too, especially for men, purpose, or I don't want to say men, masculine energy. If someone's living in their masculine energy, purpose for many, many, many men or many people in their if you identify with like the masculine energy, your career and your job can definitely, and for many, is their purpose, right? A woman or the feminine energy, a lot of us, our family can be our purpose, our children, the mothering. But I think for most men, if they're really masculine in their core, purpose and like providership, and so we can see how chronic pain can be even more devastating for the masculine at the masculine core, because now many men or masculine aren't able to provide, or they're not able to be you know doing as much because they're in chronic pain or they're suffering. And so it's like bringing the masculine back into their purpose with their career and like what lights them up. Now for women too, I mean, I'm obviously feminine and like purpose was so important for me, but I think for some women, like I said, family, that can be their purpose, or yeah, like their relationships. So I think for that's kind of an interesting spin on it too, to see like what lights you up. And for me, yeah, I don't have kids. It's like this, my coaching, this is my business, is my baby, right? So like that drive and that, yeah, it's like the energy. It's like I tell my clients, like, I want that fire back in your belly. Like that fire will fuel you, or now, right? Like it doesn't even feel like work, even though we're working, we're just so passionate, and people can hear that passion and they pick up on it. Yeah. And even if people are, helping others and it's not their career, right? Just being of support and being, yeah, like people sharing their stories. I have a friend, and she's not a chronic pain coach, but she shares her stories on migraine because that like brings her purpose of sharing what's helped her and inspiring others in the same way. So yeah, I think like purpose doesn't get talked about enough. And like I said, especially when men come to me, they're like struggling with their career. They're like, I'm making money, but I'm not, something's off. I'm not finding fulfillment. I'm like, yeah, makes total sense. Like that masculine core purpose is huge. And for many men, like I said, it's more important even than like family and relationships. And so getting back there is really, really key. And it's exciting because you are like getting that fire back in your belly, and you're putting yourself into the things that like matter. And I know like in our culture too, like what we put importance on, right? Like here living in America, we can get kind of caught up in with keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. So I think the chronic pain journey, like it does so much, but it forces you to like do so much internal work that maybe you didn't want to do. I mean, when you have time off and you're not working, sometimes it's this deeper invitation to go inwards, which we wouldn't do if we're working full time and doing all the things.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask because now, looking at your bio and just thinking back to the bio that Laura introduced us to, now it seems that, you're not only the like stress and chronic pain coach, but you're like, you do the woo stuff too. Like you doing breath work, you do Reiki, you're sound healer, even functional nutrition. Like there are people who are gonna hear that and be like, but
Mhm.
that's the woo stuff. Like, why is that gonna work for me? So why do you incorporate those and how do you do that?
Yeah, things have changed over time. I was actually doing like a little bit of Reiki hands-on, like in the breathwork classes when I was doing this before the pandemic. I was doing everything in person. So really, to be honest, I'm not doing the Reiki much at all anymore because I got trained with that like in person, and pretty much 90 7% of my clients, I have one client that sees me in person. So I think that's how things have kind of like progressed, right? And breath work has been the thing that I did change from in person into kind of like online. But I think in terms of like the woo, I mean, I definitely feel that food and what you eat and nutrition is so important, but I'm really clear we don't need it for your chronic pain, right? But you are like I want you to be healthy, and I eat healthy and I work out and those kind of things, like that vibrance. But yeah, so just knowing that people know that I have the training with the nutrition, I think is helpful. But I'm not going to force you to like don't eat this or don't eat that. But yeah, kind of like this well-rounded approach is good. But like I said, like I don't teach yoga right now. I just loved breath work like way, way, way more. That was like my calling, and I got into that. But I think too, like in terms of the woo, I think, and it kind of depends with clients what they're open to, but I really like the law of attraction, for example, and manifesting. And I show people that, TMS and mind body is really aligned with that, even though we base, a lot of the mind body obviously is like, well, it is all based in neuroscience. But if you're talking about visualization, especially if we're having symptoms and we're trying to get to a goal, like we talk about PRT training and the certification, right? Visualization is a great tool for people, and visualization is really in line with obviously like manifesting, right? Like imagine what you want. And when I talk to clients too, I mean, you could focus on this. We could have a session and you focus on the symptoms the whole time. You focus on the pain. But in terms of manifestation and the law of attraction, really the idea is focus on what you want, not what you don't want. And that's such in line with what we're all talking about and preaching. Dr. Howard Schubiner is never like, yes, focus on your pain all day and stop doing the things that you like. His fundamental teachings are find your joy again and do the things that light you up. And all of us, what lights you up and what brings you joy, and not do some of these activities. And that's really woo too. I mean, that's super law of attraction, is to focus on what you want, not what you don't want. So of course, with coaching or whatever it is, we're addressing the symptoms, and but we're not going to spend with me or, like, let's just talk about our symptoms the whole time, right? Let's talk about other areas, other stressors. How is this holding you back? Like the other areas of your life that need tending to. Yeah. So I love when I get to share with people about how, oh yeah, like law of attraction, it's a law. And the cool thing is that it is in the mind body world. But if you don't want to go there, we won't. But I can give them examples like I just mentioned, right? Like the visualization or focusing on what you want. And if they're open now, I'm like, okay, let's manifest. Like now, what else do you want to manifest? And what else do you want to bring in? And just like how powerful our words are and the things that we say and the things that we speak, right? Our subconscious is always listening and kind of accepting. And so if we say, I'm never going to get better, and just some of these self-deprecating ideas and thoughts and what we say, all the subconscious is like soaking things up. So yeah, that's how I like to bring in the woo if a client's open to it. And most of my clients, and maybe they hear me, I don't talk about it so much. Sometimes on Instagram, I'll talk about law of attraction, but I think people are open to it. If they're not, I had a client, she's like, I don't like law of attraction. I was like, okay, we won't talk about it. But I think if you're open to it, it's just kind of like what Laura said, like if you're ready, if you're open to certain things, you can kind of speed up the process a bit, right? Because when I was building my business, I was like using law of attraction and like believing the right people are going to come to me. And I didn't have to do that, but it brought me more hope. And same thing with healing, right? Like having that hope and that optimism. Yeah, it's really powerful. So I feel like that's such a good question. So I think I've shifted a bit. I've never really thought of it this way, Kenael, but like I've shifted a little bit from like the Reiki, like the physical practices maybe, or yeah, like I don't teach I don't teach yoga anymore, but I bring in more of the woo in terms of like content or concepts, or if someone wants to make like a vision board, right? And like really getting them excited about like you can make changes and like you have the power, which is like so in line with my coaching and just who I am. Is like that's one of my core beliefs, right? It's like for someone who their whole life was always giving my power to someone else, it's like, how do you take your power back? I love that about this mind body approach, because all of us, we're guiding you, but we're not like healing you, right? If a client does same thing with breath work, like I didn't heal you or just guiding you and breath work, but you did all the work. And it's the same thing with coaching and the mind body approach. I mean, what I regret, I gave so much power away to these healers and this really woo, like, I don't even know what they're doing. They're like connecting to my ancestors and like all these things. Like, I don't know how to do any of that on my own. So bringing back like breath work, you can do on your own. You can have someone guide you, and the mind body approach, you can have someone support you. You can have someone like show you your blind spots, get support, but you're taking your power back. You're not giving all your power to other people and doctors. And so I think it's, yeah, super powerful.
You know, it's true. We went to all these doctors and saying, help me, help me. Like we were just, and it wasn't even a doctor. It would have been the PT, the Reiki person, whoever it is. We just wanted them to help us. And healing is so much about giving people hope and taking their power back and knowing that they have some control with their pain. They have control how they can react to it. They have control with lowering their stress. We have control to feel our emotions. And it's always great to look for support as well while we do this, because we need sometimes help going underneath the pain. Why the pain's there. Let's go back to our
Yeah.
purpose. Let's go back to finding what we want to do in life. But just to turn the tables a little bit now to pelvic
Sure.
pain. I'm just curious. I know that you were Andrew's coach
Mhm.
and he suffered from pelvic pain, as he shared in the last episode. And I'm just curious if that was different treating Andrew to some of your other clients.
Yeah, that's a good question. It wasn't really different. I think something that maybe with someone, I know you mentioned it, and when you were sharing your story in a different podcast, is sometimes different symptoms there can be a stigma or there can be shame. I had a client who had like really, really bad hemorrhoids and, bleeding from that. And so I think having a coach that's not afraid of going, like maybe a coach that, I think there's a lot of kindness that needs to be there, and like normalizing it and not being afraid of things, either of, somatic tracking. I'm going to be saying that area, right? Like bring your awareness there. And so I think maybe the only thing is just having awareness that this could be like sensitive or tender. But I think because I've had experience with helping people, it wasn't too different. Yeah, but I know with some women with pelvic pain, there could be trauma. I think for a woman, I would have approached it a little bit different with like, sometimes there's sexual trauma or there could be something from that. But yeah, I think with Andrew, we like hit the nail, right? We were supposed to like getting to like the deeper, like the levels, like he said, he's like, we just went three levels deeper of getting to what the other stressors are in your life. So, and I think like he was so open and ready to do this work too. I think goes back to your point of people being ready. But yeah, I don't see too much difference since I've helped people with so many different conditions. I would just say like, yeah, it's so important for clients to feel supported and safe, even with an area that might typically not, people might not be comfortable sharing.
Listening to your story, knowing Andrew's story, Laura's story, and pretty much anyone else we've spoken to and work with, you
Uh-huh.
brought up there's themes that keep popping up, right? The fact that many people will go to many different doctors and many different practitioners. You did the East and the West things, like you did all the things, but ultimately what you were doing, you mentioned, was giving your power away. You were looking for someone to do to you, and you weren't
Yeah.
looking deeper to see like, okay, what is going on? You weren't ready to face the fact that you were out of alignment. The things you were doing in your life were out of alignment. Like you needed to leave your job, but you weren't ready to do that yet. Like you had to work internally to be able to get to that point, which brings up a lot of fear. And when someone is experiencing a lot of pain and they go to a doctor and they get one diagnosis, okay, now I'm afraid of that. What does that mean? Can I get better? Or they say they need this procedure. That brings on a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. So it's like you end up getting stuck in this fear cycle of, oh, I have this diagnosis and that means that. Or they don't know what's wrong with me. That means that too. So it's all just this like
Yeah.
cycle of being stuck in fear. And what happened for you, what happened for Laura, what happened to Andrew and many other people who overcome chronic pain is something breaks the cycle, whether it's a book, it's a podcast, it's a doctor or the Eastern woo person, right? Like something or someone breaks that cycle that gives them hope and optimism. Now they've broken the cycle, other things can flood in and they can let go of that fear. Once you let go of the fear and you have hope and optimism, now you're looking for, oh, now I can do these things and it's going to get better, because you're not going for the things based on fear. You're not going to the doctor
Totally.
because you're fearful. You're not going to this coach or this practitioner because you're fearful. You're going to them because you are taking your power back. Hey, what can you teach me about myself? And how can we work through that? And that's when the gift comes along. Oh, the pain was
Yeah.
here to show me this. And then you can, from there, develop your or come up with your purpose or how you can be of service, and you've taken your power back. So I just wanted to mention that. And for people who've done all the things and they're like, breath work didn't work for me, or Reiki didn't work for me, some other person's going to turn around and be like, breath work changed my life. Reiki changed my life. It's not the thing. It's not necessarily the thing, right?
Mhm.
It's what breaks the cycle for you. And for you, it may be Reiki, and for you, it may be breath work, right? So it's not that the things don't work. It's, does it work for you? Does it break that cycle of fear? Because once you can break the cycle of fear, then hope and optimism floods in, and then you're open to other things. And then you can see the purpose and the gift, and, and then you can sort of work from conscious now, right? You know all the stuff. I know everything about pain. I know everything about my condition. I know everything about mind body, but you need to take that information and work at the subconscious level. Okay, what are my
Mhm.
beliefs? What are my values? What is my
Yeah.
purpose, right? So, yeah, I just wanted to summarize all of that. I feel like that's everyone's experience when it comes to chronic conditions, whether, you brought up like eating disorders, autoimmune disorders, like anything. It really comes down to just that. There's fear behind it. You're giving your power away. You got to take that power back. And it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. And it's not going to happen with working with one person. You may need to work with multiple people because that's
Yeah.
just how it works.
Yeah, and I think in our community sometimes, because we can be perfectionistic, right? Some of us. I'll just put myself, right? It's like we think that like the one approach or the one like you mentioned, like, yeah, a lot of people see different coaches or different practitioners or do the different things, and I think it's really great to reiterate there is no one journey on this of what somebody needs. It's really, I tell people, take what resonates. If you like this, it resonates, you enjoy it, it feels good, do this. And I think people can put a lot of pressure too of like, who's my perfect coach and who's going to get me from here to here? And it's just like, just take your next step. One of my clients did a testimonial and he was like, he put it on my website. He's like, you're on Jeannie's website. Like, you're here, right? Like, it's just kind of this whole process is about trusting yourself and really, yeah, like it's exactly. And then going back, I love that question that you asked me before, like, what did you do? Right. And it was like, yeah, what did it? But I think the biggest thing is that like I let go of the fear. If I was to go back to that question, what did I do? There you go. I let go
Yeah.
of the fear. Yeah. And I released it. And there's a lot of fear that gets piled up over 20 plus years and all the conditioning and all the things that doctors tell you and all the things that you're learning. Yeah, and then just going back to trust, and the antidote for fear is trust, right? So then how do you like start? And that was huge too. I really struggled with trusting my body. So yeah, even when people are on the other side, I still tell people there was a lot of shame in my body from all that, like maybe PTSD, like I think there is, right? From just that medical trauma. And so that shame is because I believe so much like the pain, like the mind body and the body keeps the score, right? It's in our body. It doesn't just heal, unfortunately, like automatic, oh, I'm better, all my problems are gone, right? It's still this kind of interesting relationship with my body now, and this trust, which I didn't have. That's an interesting like mind body connection. Because for so long, I didn't trust my body. I didn't feel like I had any power. It was like mind and body were so separate. So coming back into it and trusting like anything that happens now, mind, body, just trust. Like, I'm kind of like the queen of like, I just think so many things are mine. Not everything is my body, but I have been accused of like many things are mind body, because I just see that relationship and it just makes so much sense to me.
So I'm just curious now that we're going to finish up, if there's any last thoughts or maybe a lesson that you've really taken from your journey that you'd like to share with everyone.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just think this is the path, and don't quit on yourself. Like Kenael was saying, it's if the one coach got you to a certain level or the program and you're not, like, I just really want to encourage you to keep going, and you're worth it, and this is the path, and you'll figure out what it is. But a lot of us, we don't really know our next steps, or we're confused. And I love going back to James Wedmore, my mentor, who I said that Steve Ozanich was on the podcast, like, if you take action, that brings more clarity. So taking action, I knew I wanted to be a coach, never thought I'd be a chronic pain coach, but like, I took action. It's like, okay, I'm a life coach, I'm a health coach. So take like your just next step without having to put all the pressure. And it's just possible for you. I mean, you hear all these stories and we're just shouting from the rooftops. It's possible for you if you've gotten to a certain part of healing. I just tell people not to settle for like partial healing, right? I know some people are like, it's good enough, but I'm just like, you can fully heal. Like, you can fully heal and trust the process, and it's going to happen.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And where could people find you if they'd like to find more information?
Yeah, so on the socials, you can find me at Jeannie Kulwin Coaching, and I'll spell the name because I know it's complicated. JeannieKulwin. So that's at Jeannie Kulwin Coaching on Instagram and Facebook. And then my website is just jeanniekulwin.com. And if you go to jeanniekulwin.com, you can get a free mini breathwork session. And Laura's taken my class, I've taken hers. And so I know breathwork isn't for everyone, but I definitely think everyone should try it because it could be for you. And a lot of clients have gotten great relief from stress and starting to feel their emotions. So definitely want to encourage you to try it if you haven't yet.
Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I love sharing all this inspiration and joy. And yeah, so great to meet you guys again here.
Thank you so much.
If you'd like to leave us a message or ask a question, please check the show notes with the link so you can reach us directly, or email us at beyondthepelvis@gmail.com.